All right, if you've been watching any of my videos, you may have seen my Stormtrooper helmet that I have usually up on the shelf here. I made this, and I want to do a little video to kind of go over how that project went because it was really fun. It you would call it maybe a little more of an intermediate thing, but it really just was about following some steps, and I really do think anyone could do this if they just had the patience to and whatnot. So I'm thinking of doing this again, but maybe with a different kind of helmet. And I may put some videos on as I go along the way. I could do it for way less money than I did it before, and I bet I could do it a lot quicker than before. Now, here's how this went. It started off, this helmet, which is solid and made out of resin. It started off as this paper project here. This is just like a sewing pattern that you would find. I'll find the website. I can't remember what it was, but I'll find it and I'll put it here somewhere. It was just like a sewing pattern where you find the helmet. It had all these weapons and these helmets and these iconic kind of movie prop pieces. I've always liked Stormtroopers, and so I decided to just make this part. I didn't know if I was going to do anything else, but I thought that'll be kind of cool. Now, if you are someone who likes doing Lego, likes doing models or things like that, this was fun because you print out the pages, you cut out on the bold lines, and then it has places where to fold. It's just as easy as that. It's basically matching the numbers and gluing them together. And once you've done that, as long as you've done that part correctly, once you are finished with it, you will have something like this. Now, it doesn't have these bottom cheek things. I wasn't done here, but I basically just did this while I was watching movies and stuff. But this did take me a long time. I bet it took me like 15 hours just to do all this, doing all the cutting. And sometimes there were really intricate sort of things. You can't really tell here, but it was a lot. There are the earpieces were a lot. Like, this is all different paper folds and things like that. Now, the next part was kind of fun when I decided it was done, and I wanted to go to the next step. And I think you guys would like this project. Now, the next piece was to get fiberglass, and you can get this at an automotive place. I hadn't worked with fiberglass before. I did a ton of woodworking growing up, but I had never actually worked with fiberglass. So I had to teach myself a little bit of this auto body kind of stuff. But it really wasn't, you can say I did a messy job, but it wasn't the worst thing. Now, you get the fiberglass fabric, and I will do other videos or answer questions or point you towards the videos that I used. You get the fiberglass fabric, and then you get the kind of the paint, this oil or whatever. And you start with this I can't remember. I think you did this kind of fiberglass painty stuff, this kind of the glue on the outside first, maybe, or I might be wrong. But it kind of saturates the whole thing. I'll figure that out, but that's not what this video is for. And then on the inside, you're kind of painting the inside very lightly and laying this fabric down and painting over it so that it kind of gets, it's like rebar in cement, and it just kind of solidifies everything so that once it all dries, you could bang it around and it wouldn't break. So I did a bunch of layers, and then I sanded this all down and da-da-da-da. Now, once you have that, once you have the hard fiberglass shell, you can go to Bondo. Now, you could probably do this without Bondo. You could probably get spackle or something, and if you weren't really that particular about it, I think Bondo is the way that you would really do a professional job. And so I was just doing what I saw other people doing. But you get Bondo, which is kind of like this cement where you just get some putty out. It solidifies quite quickly, and then you kind of use a straight edge something. You could even use a credit card, but you know what I mean? And you just fill in these low spots because it's all sort of geometric before when you've just done the paper. So it just fills in the low spots. And then you do that, you sand it a little bit if you want, you fill it a little more. And as you do that, filling in the low spots more and more, you get more of a rounded, everything becomes more rounded and the shape that you really are going for. This is after a couple Bondo layers. You can see this is my first time working with it, but it's really, you don't have to worry about it. As long as you have a sander, you can redo things, which I did a lot of redoing and reshaping things. So you can see how it's getting more kind of a rounded top, and everything is kind of coming together a little bit. You can see how, I spray painted it all once I did a whole bunch of layers, but it still wasn't done yet. You can see it's a little bumpy and whatnot, and I actually skipped a thing. Here we go. So I had the paper mache, fiberglass, Bondo, and you also have this glazing putty, which is right next to the Bondo at the automotive shop. I mean, fiberglass, all of this is right next to each other. This glazing putty is kind of like the Bondo, but it's for, I'm not a car person, so I'm sure I'm giving the wrong technical things, but I used it as kind of a softer Bondo that just filled in the Bondo is quite coarse and muddy and thick. This would get into all the small low spots and really smooth things out. So I would do that everywhere, sand it really nice, do it a little bit more, sand it, sometimes put some water, kind of a little bit to see the reflection if there was any bumps, until I did that enough where this is another kind of spray just to see where the bumps were. This is where I put a lot of that glaze in, and you can see here, I abandoned the idea to do empty lenses here because I thought I was just going to put it on the wall instead of use it. I wanted to have it able to do easy casts as well. So I put some stuff there and I did that with that glaze. You can see I made these. They didn't have paper things for that, so I used tube, just some rubber tubing. And then you get to this, something like this. And I don't know about you, but this isn't a representation that I am an expert at anything like this. I just took the time. So I would say about 15 hours to do the paper, about putting the paper together, maybe 3 to 5 hours for the fiberglass because I did it a couple times and I was just really taking it slow. The Bondo part really took me a lot of hours because I was really wanting this top part to look awesome, and really, really all the curves to be right. It's not exactly where I wanted it to be, but I thought it was pretty cool or pretty good. And then came this part. And then what I did is I got all this because I wanted to make more casts. This is where I spent way too much money. Way too much money getting this stuff. In retrospect, I could do this for a quarter of the cost. I didn't need all of this. This is the professional kind of grade stuff, I think, that people would use to do these kinds of casts. And I am kind of glad I got it because I was able to do dozens more helmets with that same cast. So once I was able to do this, I did that for fun kind of things. I had people kind of making their own and teaching them some things, how to do their own casts. Sold a few, gave a few away, and da-da-da-da. Now, once you have your helmet, you get some of this silicone. You mix them together. And once you do that, they kind of turn into this gummy kind of silicone and a really light layer over everything. But around half of it, you have kind of a layer of plasticine. that kind of fleshes out this way all the way around it. So when you're putting this on, it's only doing up to here with that, up to the plasticine. And the plasticine has these dots in it. I wonder if it doesn't have it. Anyway, you would see a whole bunch of dots in this stuff, so that when you're doing the resin or the silicone, it's going down, getting every part, and also has these little holes in it so that they will line up when you do the other side. Flip it over. You do kind of the next side onto it, going the other way. Of course, there's some extra parts to it, and then you thicken it so that you're building it up so it's nice and thick like this, making little nubs. So those little nubs will be important because this silicone will fit inside of a rigid shell eventually. So you're doing that, making your original kind of your original silicone mold of your helmet. And I promise this is not as complicated as it looks. It's just about following some steps and being careful. And I can show you along the way. I might do this again. Have this, and then I could have done this without this putty stuff. I could have done this by just fiberglassing on carefully, probably. It wouldn't have the same kind of resilience after, but right now you are seeing a silicone layer for the bottom half, or the top, the face, and then on the back, and then this kind of foam, so that the foam will get rigid, totally rigid, and then it'll be two halves that the silicone pieces can fit into the, you see these little nubs? That will go into the foam. So you'll be able to put that together, seal it, and it'll be this, it'll be the outside of this helmet without the helmet inside. Yeah. So then after doing that, I made two fiberglass pieces for the two sides. So and it would stick sticking onto that foam. So when you pull it apart, it has the fiberglass and the foam, but then you can pull out the silicone each time. And then I have little drill pieces so I can kind of seal them together. Once they are sealed together, like you take the helmet out, you have the silicone, you have the foam, you have the fiberglass, and then inside, that's when you can pour in the resin and do your cast, do 5 or 6 4 or 5, whatever, to make it as thick as you want. And then you come out with this. And you can get this in 5 minutes of casting after you've done your initial work, or 10 minutes of casting, and you can make tons of weapons, tons of helmets, tons of cool things. So you can see this was my first pull of the original helmet. Doesn't look bad. See, this is where you can see the silicone. I made the little beads there. That's when I peeled off the face part, and that's how it looks after not much time. See? I hydro dipped one. Yeah. So so this has a bunch of this has the whatchamacallit, the Darth Vader theme. I can't remember what it's called. But this was something I put on Facebook. It's only a minute here. It goes through some of these steps. But this really was a fun project. I would do this again, and I would maybe in the Discord, we could have a little spot. If anyone wanted to do this with me, we could maybe kind of commit to getting certain steps done, going really slowly, or whatever. If you wanted to do this and you wanted to post your progress, I would totally cheer you on and answer whatever questions. You can see the glaze there. And that would be maybe fun to do. Now, I know there are actual forums and things to do this at, but and that's where I did some of, there are actual places where they do cheer you on here, which would be fun to go through as well, or be a part of as well, if you wanted to. But if this seems interesting to you, well, of course I have a Dr. Pepper shirt on. If this thing seems like something fun to do, it really was worth doing. And I've been thinking about doing another helmet or some more stuff. And it would be maybe fun to do with some of you guys, even if it was just for the first paper part or whatever. But if you have the time, then this is something I was gonna do a really nice chrome, but I found that it was still a little lumpy. I didn't like it. Yeah, so I'm gonna leave this here. I don't know. I think this was pretty fun to do, and let me know. I will put the place that I did this either in the description or something where I found the paper kind of patterns, and I'm going to be looking maybe in the next few days for another pattern to do. And I'll talk to you later.